Hello everyone and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And the news that we have been waiting for all day has officially been confirmed. The South African-based games, the round 6 and 7 matches of the United Rugby Championship have officially been postponed due to the new COVID-19 variant risk. We put out a video earlier this morning saying that Scarlets and Cardiff Rugby had come out and said that as a result of flights being put onto the UK red list, they were looking to try and fly out as soon as possible and would but which basically sort of meant that it was unlikely that these games were going to go ahead. We hadn't heard any communication from Munster and Zebra, who obviously, as non-UK sides, weren't directly affected by the UK sort of travel list issue. But it was likely that, articles are sort of surfacing from the EU saying that they wanted to try and implement a travel ban on South Africa. And it has now officially been confirmed that all 4 matches that were supposed to be played in South Africa this weekend have officially been postponed, as well as the 4 matches next weekend, because obviously these teams will no longer be in the country. Before we sort of dive into the press release and understand exactly what the sort of situation is, please do smash a like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. So this is the statement that has been put out by the URC and was released by SA Rugby a short while ago. They said that the safety and well-being of our participating clubs, players, coaches, support staff, and match officials is the foremost priority, and the URC is currently working with the 4 visiting clubs, Cardiff Rugby, Munster Rugby, Scarlets, and Zebra, to facilitate the return as soon as possible. This decision is based upon the latest guidance against non-essential travel to and from South Africa and the ban on direct flights to the UK and other home destinations, and the potential hotel quarantines enforced upon those returning from South Africa. A period of assessment will now be required to better understand the impact of these new travel restrictions and how to reschedule these games within the current season. Given the nature and speed of the developments, URC will provide further updates at the appropriate time through official channels only. So now the entire sort of tournament sort of sits in limbo. Now, one imagines the way it'll work is that this weekend's games will be postponed, and one imagines that they could then play, for example, I think it's what was the round 5 fixtures, where the South African teams supposed to play against each other. That could very well take place next weekend, potentially, now that there won't be any traveling games, with the potential to maybe play these games during the sort of that Six Nations period, which wasn't supposed to be part of the plan, but they could sort of their hands could be forced, and the whole idea was that the URC was going to take place outside of Test West windows, which means that your Ireland and your Ireland, Italian, Scottish, Welsh teams would always have their sort of internationals available to them, apart from the sort of week or two where they're basically being rested because of international duty, although we are seeing some of them still being involved. So there's been no sort of official communications to what will happen, but it's a very, very tricky situation, because having the rest of the tournament played in Europe and having the SA teams based in Europe is not an option. It's just not an option. We're looking at players. For example, if you look at the Sharks, they've got 10 Springbok players. These players have basically been in a bio-bubble for June, July, August, September, October. They came back for 2 weeks and then once again went overseas. This is the first time they haven't been in a sort of bio-bubble or sort of that kind of environment. You cannot ask these players to now go and spend 3 or 4 months based in Europe, away from their families once again, to try and have this tournament sort of closed out outside of South Africa. That's just not an option. It's not an option for the South African teams to be based in Europe. It's already sort of coming out in terms of how hectic it has been on some of these players to have been away from their family, to have been in this sort of bio-bubble quarantine life. You can't be asked of them. And again, in terms of the legitimacy of the competition, the credibility of the competition, for South African teams to just not have home games, it removes that completely, because it's a whole different sort of match and environment to play a game in Cardiff than it is to play at Loftus, to play at Kings Park, to play in the Cape Town Stadium. It's very, very different. So that really for me is not an option. This is why we wait and see what will happen in terms of how things will move forward. But it is a bit worrying that already we're now carrying 2 rounds basically of SA matches that need to be caught up somewhere. Now, hopefully it also dies down quite quickly. Travel restrictions are eased and we can kind of sort of get back to where we wanted to be in the first place. But we've pretty much got until the beginning of the year of next year to do that, because I think the Lions are due to play Leinster in like the second week of January type thing. So there's not a lot of time for this to all sort of pan out. And what we've seen is that the restrictions are often very quick to be implemented and very slow to then sort of be retracted. I mean, it took months and months of South Africa being sort of next to no COVID case before they were officially moved off the red list. If you're looking at the South African sides, the next time after these two matches they were due to play, Friday the 7th of January, Lions supposed to be playing Leinster over in Ireland. You've got Sharks taking Benetton in Italy, Bulls taking on Zebra in Italy, and then Stormers taking on Connacht also in Ireland. So, it's basically sort of a 6-week period where if we can't get these two, well, regardless of these two games, but in the next 6 weeks, if travel restrictions haven't been eased and we can't sort of travel pretty freely between here and Europe, those games suddenly get pushed back or postponed and stuff like that. And when you start suddenly having to carry 3, 4, 5, 6 games in what is already a very compact schedule, it becomes very difficult. And my worry is that they then sort of go the Rainbow Cup route where they say, well, you know what, South African teams, you just stay in South Africa, you play in amongst each other, and then maybe one of your teams fly up and play us at a later stage, which kind of sort of removes the entire idea of the United Rugby Championship. It would also be interesting to see what that then means for European qualification towards the end of next season, with the idea that South African teams are supposed to be joining the European Champions Cup and the European Challenge Cup and the stuff like that. So it's all very, very tricky. We can get over, I'm saying, like logistically, you can make up the postponement of these two games. But as soon as more games start getting postponed, or as soon as sort of travel restrictions continue to be an issue beyond this, the entire competition could be in jeopardy. But as I said, it just can't be a solution for the South African teams to be based in Europe. You cannot ask these players much more, to be honest. I mean, these are players who are asked to go to Europe early and spend basically 5 weeks in Europe to sort of tick travel restriction boxes and stuff like that, which no team has had to do. So it's already been. The South African teams have already sort of had to do far more than the European sides were going to have to do to begin with. For example, they played 3 matches in a row away from home, which, or 4 matches, I think it was away from home, which none of the other sides will have to do. And in coming seasons, hopefully that also won't have to be the case. But yeah, so it's a very, very tricky situation, a very delicate situation. Obviously, it's very early on in the situation and with proceedings, and we'll update you as soon as we find out more information. But at the moment, Sharks, Lions, Bulls, Stormers, Zebra, Cardiff, Scarlets, and Munster will not be in action this weekend. So it's a bit of subdued weekend now, as opposed to a very limited amount of rugby. So we'll update you in terms of what we'll be covering and when. But until then, please do smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Stephen, and I'll chat to you soon.